everyone, to another episode of the world's greatest news and reviews.
Giving you opinions about nerd stuff is our superpower.
I'm Captain Mao.
And I am weapon number 2.
And this is our official review of the Netflix original movie, Project Power. So, we'll keep the first part of this review spoiler-free. As always, we'll give you a heads up when we begin to spoil things, but as I said, Project Power is a Netflix original movie. I don't know if this is based on a graphic novel or anything. Definitely had that feel to it.
It did.
But Weapon 2, give a plot synopsis. Overall, quickly, what is the movie about?
Pills and powers. It's all about pills and powers.
Well, that is the quickest synopsis I think you will ever give about anything.
So, what it is there's a world in which you can have superpowers, except for you don't have them unless you take a pill, and then they only last for 5 minutes. So you got to really plan your window accordingly to have your powers for 5 minutes. And I don't know. It's about somebody looking for their daughter. We'll find out probably in the spoilers about what that's all about. Searching for your daughter, frantically, what's going on? Powers, bad people, experimentations, all kinds of things like that. Is there anything that I've left out?
No, you nailed it.
Okay.
So the movie stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Jamie Foxx, who are both fantastic in the movie. The girl whose name I can't remember, I'll put it up though. She was great also. Great fucking movie. I want to get this out of the way.
Very good movie.
Very good movie. The trailer had me intrigued, and I watched it, and the opening scene I thought was kind of cheesy, and I was initially kind of like, oh, this is going to be bad, and I was completely wrong. The movie was fantastic. Like I enjoyed this movie way more than I thought I would, and way more than I think anything I've watched recently. And I think that's because like something like The Old Guard I loved, but I could kind of tell I was gonna love that. This I didn't think I would like as much. I think this was really, really, really well done. To touch on what the power thing is, this is still no spoilers, but yeah, you take a pill and the pill gives you a power, and the power only lasts for 5 minutes. The trailer kind of made it seem like every pill you take was going to give you a random power, but no, whoever you are, you have a power, and that kind of unlocks it.
And you don't know it until you take the pill,
and there's
find
some
out.
Really cool powers, and there are some really shitty powers, like kill you right away, explode from the inside type bad shit. So you're rolling the dice whether or not you should even take one. But it gets unleashed on the streets. It's given to dealers, and we'll get into the reasons why in the spoilers. And it becomes a street drug, and a really shitty one because it gives some people the ability to basically level police precincts and go rob shit. Like it could turn you into a supervillain for 5 minutes.
Right.
And the law is having a hard time trying to track these people down and fight them all and all this. And there's actually like a good story woven in there that we'll get into in the spoilers. But what this movie did well for me was the characters. Jamie Foxx, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and the girl, again, can't remember her name, were all fantastic. I cared about every single one of them. All the emotional scenes, even though they were kind of generic, kind of predictable and all that, I was invested and emotional and along for the ride. Yeah. On top of that, the action was great. Visuals were hit and miss for the most part. To me, they were quite good. A couple of times you could tell they needed a little bit more budget to finish off some of the CGI, but overall, the action was good, the music was good, the characters were good, the story was good. I was blown away by how much I enjoyed this movie. Weapon 2, what do you think?
I liked the movie. I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was an interesting take, kind of a different kind of a idea about superheroes and way to present them and how they come about and what their powers are. There were times where it kind of started falling off for me for a little while, but then I would get right back into it. Mm-hmm. There was certain things that we'll talk about in spoilers that I was like, that I didn't like about it. But the big thing for me was the characters. Yeah. It was the acting was good. There was a lot of good about it. There was maybe one major plot point that I wasn't a super big fan about. But other than that, it was a really good movie. And if you like a different type of superhero movie, for sure, it's a good thing to watch. Yeah,
it definitely wasn't perfect, and we'll talk about it in the spoilers. But for me, I'm really big into character-driven stuff. And if you make me give a shit about the characters, I'm going to be way more forgiving about like plot holes or things that don't make a lot of sense or whatever. And Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt were both fantastic. Their relationship and chemistry with the girl was great. They all had funny moments. They all had just genuinely good moments, and that's why the movie like worked for me. And again, the trailer made it look good, and I don't know why I was just expecting it to be kind of a mediocre movie, and it wasn't that. So I think maybe my expectations played into it, but I think it was a fantastic movie. Highly, 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 highly recommended. At least I do. Weapon 2, recommend.
Oh, sure, I recommend it. Yeah,
it's on Netflix.
You watch it. It's on Netflix for sure.
There's not a lot in theaters that you can go see right now. So, like, if you want something new and different and kind of original, and like I said, don't know if it's a graphic novel. Definitely felt like a graphic novel, though.
Yes.
Definitely check out Project Power on Netflix right now. Spoiler alerts. Weapon 2, what were your issues?
My biggest issue through the whole thing was I was on this ride of this pill that gives people superpowers for whatever reason, and you learn that it's apparently Jamie Foxx's daughter is somehow the originator or the person. He was under some type of military government experimentation, and then his daughter for some reason became the genetic person to provide the power.
So they kind of
pills genetically.
So they showed what had happened was the government was experimenting on their soldiers, which is what Jamie Foxx was, in the lab, trying to like get them to be able to get powers and stabilize it and all that. While he was undergoing all these experiments and stuff that were temporary, the results like would fade away. He ended up having his child, and so because of the way science and genetics work, she ended up being born with powers, but permanent powers that stayed. The government caught wind of this and wanted to get her essentially to harvest her genetic material to make this pill. Now, the thing that they're doing in the movie is they want to make these pills, and they're basically using large U.S. cities as their testing sites. They're using us as your beta test.
Guinea pigs.
Yeah, as the guinea pigs. So where they're giving it to dealers to get it out to people to see what happens, to see the results that happen, see the different types of powers. And they're trying to get it to the point where they can obviously weaponize it and obviously make it stable to sell it to warlords or whoever the hell would want these things.
I think they're still trying to find out how to make people permanently powerful.
Yeah, they're trying to make it permanent like the daughter, and they're trying to stabilize it, because as it stands, you can take it and like I said, it could be something terrible that would kill you, and they want to get rid of that, obviously.
I was still 100% on board for all of this. This is the thing that was a plot point that I didn't like. When they started to try to explain why people have powers, and they started trying to say that it's animals.
An evolution.
You're getting some type of powers like an animal would have. And I was like, no.
That was a bit of a stretch, yeah.
Some of these powers I have not seen an animal do, like blow up everything around it.
Yeah, so that was a stretch.
So I was like, that was what I was like, okay, you could have just said because for me, but when you start to say, no, it has to be something that can be attributed to something in the animal kingdom, I'm like, then you should have made these powers more like something that is something in the animal kingdom could have.
They were trying to make it a little bit more sciencey, a little bit more like unlocking a genetic code or material. And you see what they're going for, but you're right. That reeled me back.
But if you do that, then you need to stick with that.
Yes, correct.
Instead of coming up with some power that is like burst into flames and become a fireball. Yeah. Like, what animal does that?
Yeah. And they try to explain stuff like that. And you're right. It doesn't land. That didn't take me out of it. But yeah, that was definitely a hiccup. The other thing is the movie.
I'm known to overthink things too in movies. And I'm sitting there going, come on.
Dude, you're talking to
about?
The king of overthinking things in movies. So that's totally fine. I get that complaint. My little complaint is that it got a little too cute with the foreshadowing. Like almost to the point, like you said, when they mentioned like the animal thing and they showed the one, it was like, oh, this freaking lizard breaks its legs and has bone spurs. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to see a dude do that later. Right. Or when you see the daughter walk by and like the plant comes back to life, I'm like, okay, well, someone's dying, probably Jamie Foxx, and she's going to bring it back to life. Like almost anything it would do, you could tell that it was on the nose foreshadowing, which I don't mind foreshadowing when it's cleverly done and hidden and you're like, oh, because they did this. But no, this was spoon-fed to you and it didn't need to be, which is fine. But again, back to the characters there, Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt's interactions with the girl, like both of them were shown to be funny and capable and be able to improvise in like really stressful situations. And the whole time you're following both of them, but they don't meet up until past the midway point of the movie. So it's kind of this cool thing where like I was at least connected to two characters, emotionally invested in both characters, knew they were going to be kind of at odds with each other, but ultimately find their common ground and work together. And I was genuinely excited to see that. I was genuinely excited to see them start working together, and it paid off. When Jamie Foxx is reunited with his daughter, like I was legitimately emotional. Like it was good. And you're right. Like there was cheesy generic stuff. So the villains, the antagonists, they're generic AF. Like there's nothing special about them. Specifically the dude who's like hosting and trying to sell stuff, like discount Ra's al Ghul. He was a cartoon character. Like he was in a totally different movie. But that scene though was dope when they gave the pill to the girl in the case and she had the ice powers, but they were controlling her body heat. Yeah. And then once that got sorted out, is she started like over cooling. I don't know how the hell you would say it. Like freezing and like not being able to control it and breaking down. But that was a brilliantly shot scene because as she's breaking down and freezing and convulsing, you see through the glass all the crazy action that's happening. Yeah. And like normally I'm not a fan of the Michael Bay close in shaky cam. I can't quite see what's going on action. That's usually cheap and lazy to me because you don't want to choreograph a good fight. Right. But this, seeing it through the eyes of this chick who we're experiencing the horror of what's happening to her, and that is just happening in the background, was brilliant. Like that was a very, very smart way to get away with that type of action shots and still like have a plot driven reason why that's happening. I thought that I was like almost applauding. I was like, that was so well thought out. Yeah. To me, that was kind of the high point of the movie. The rest of the action's good too. But again, it was very predictable. Like you could almost predict everything that was going to happen. But again, it was fun. It was exciting. It was funny. I cared about the characters. I feel like the character moments made this for me. But you're right. Your complaint is 100% valid. There's lots of stuff that was cheesy and predictable, but I was pleasantly surprised with this.
I mean, those are little comments about that. But I mean, if you just going along with the ride about, for me, a lot of stuff that's fun about this is not already knowing what's going to happen. The problem with so much comic book and superhero stuff is a lot of it I already know where it's coming from. I've already read it. I've seen it somewhere. I just know something about it. I don't know anything about this. And for me, a lot of the funnest thing is seeing something for the first time and discovering it just along with everybody else for the first time about what in the world is going on in this universe. So and that's for me.
Like we talked about in our Umbrella Academy review. That's part of what we like that so much because we're experiencing new characters for the first time, which is a rarity for people like us that are super into this kind of stuff. And so this was, a whole new world, a whole new universe that they totally leave open for a sequel. And just like the old guard, I'm like, more please. Like, I'll take another one.
Sure.
So overall for me, very positive. I think this was cool fun. And I did like the conversation when Jamie Foxx is telling the girl what happened, and he's like, they were trying to create superheroes, and it's like, that is how
I know
shit
that's
would
why
happen.
I'm watching this,
but again, trying to give a little bit of air of realism. That's what would happen though. Like the government would experiment on people, and they would weaponize it, and like it would be terrible. It would be horrible. It would not be a fun thing. So. I very positive on this movie. Definitely check it out. It's worth watching. At the very least, it's just a fun, different take on powers and all that kind of stuff. So I totally watch it.
Yes, watch it, folks.
All right, closing thoughts?
Nothing. Just like I said, watch it. Thanks for tuning in. I think we've done a great job again, Captain Mao.
We do a great job every time, sir. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the world's greatest news and reviews. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications.
Peace.